How do? My name is Andrew Hancock and I am a VMware technical architect from Yorkshire in the United Kingdom. I have worked with VMware since their birth in 1998, so that has been over 24 years I have been working with the VMware product catalogue. Some of my close colleagues say if you cut Andy in half, it reads VMware like a stick of rock from Blackpool. I have now written 134 articles and recorded 30 hours of VMware vSphere videos for Experts Exchange and received 40 Experts Exchange awards over the last 10 years working with the Experts Exchange community. I am currently the overall #1 point earner in the Hall of Fame at Experts Exchange. I am honoured to have been accepted into the VMware vExpert program since 2011 and more recently made a VMware vExpert Pro for the last 3 years. And welcome back to another episode of Hancock's VMware Half Hour. And in the next 30 minutes, and hopefully it's going to be shorter than 30 minutes because time is precious, I'm going to show you how to install and configure VMware vSphere Hypervisor 8.0 on a physical, bare metal, HPE ProLiant microserver Gen 8. And here they are. ESXi 002 is already on, it's powered up. ESXi 001 is currently not powered up, but there's no smoke and mirrors here, so I'm actually going to show you that this is live, and these are live servers that we're working with in the lab. There you go, you can see the green light come on. Hopefully the background noise and the fans and everything is being removed as we speak, so you won't hear them spin up. But whilst this actually starts to boot, I'm going to sort of kind of do a little bit of a waffle as normal. We're going to follow this article and video that I've done previously, and it's not really going to be very different to this at all, other than this particular video here is installing and configuring VMware vSphere Hypervisor 7 U2 on a server that doesn't have an operating system on it. What we're going to do today, we're going to do an in-place upgrade of ESXi 7.0.3 latest build UG, which is currently installed on this HPE microserver. We have had some issues in the past, and if you watch my last video where I showed you how to update the firmware, I'm hoping that that firmware update that we've done in the last video is going to resolve the issue of booting our ISO, which is currently installed on our workstation here. So we're going to boot the ISO via ILO across the LAN, and then we're going to do an in-place upgrade of the server. Now, if we actually sort of just quickly kind of go back, okay, that's actually just going to boot, but I'm just going to sort of kind of quickly take you around ILO. You can actually currently see that it says the SD card status is present and it's 32 gig. Now, I have touched on this briefly before, writing on the wall with SD cards and USB flash drives and ESXi 7.03. So if it's home lab, fine, but I think realistically, if this is production, then I seriously think that you need to think about what you're going to use in production. And I think NVMe, SATA DOM, M2, BOS cards, SSD, or even HDD, I think are going to be far more suitable than an SD card. So I'm going to say no more. So one of the things that we're going to do, and the server's actually still booting, and you can sit there and you can watch the lovely live stream, if you like, or live recording of some bare metal servers that aren't really going to do a lot. So that's just turn that off. So I'm now going to insert the CD, and it's in my downloads. So this is actually the HPE version, and you probably saw down there it says media inserted. So I've actually virtually inserted that ISO into the HPE server. It doesn't actually have a CD-ROM drive. So the only way really to, you know, we've got three mechanisms really that boot from the ISO. We could update via Lifecycle Manager, and I'll show you that in the latest video. We could update through USB, or we could actually download the offline depot from VMware and we could update that way. Or we could actually run the ESXi direct from the bash shell, pull the update down and apply it that way. So those are a number of different options that we've got. This way is traditional: insert the ISO, boot the server, and upgrade. Now I just wanted to show you this particular server booting, to show you that we've actually got 7.0.3 and all is well. And then what we're going to do then is we're going to restart the server, and we're going to select the option to boot from the CD. It's going to boot the installer, and then basically we're going to do the upgrade. So whilst this is continuing to boot, I'm just going to bob off, and I'll be back shortly when it's booted. So I will be back shortly. Okay, I'm back in the room. Right, okay, so I apologise about that, a bit longer than I thought. Okay, so we're going to shut this host down, and we're going to do a restart. Okay, restart in progress. I'm going to have to keep an eye on this. So I'm going to chat about the VMware compatibility list, and keep an eye on this. I'm going to chat about the VMware compatibility list. So these HPE ProLiant Microserver Gen 8s, they fell off the VMware hardware compatibility list, I think after about ESX 6.7. We have been successfully running ESX 7.0 on these reliably with no issues whatsoever. And that's actually been using the OEM HPE version of ESXi, which generally I wouldn't normally recommend. Okay, so I'm just going to, and I've missed it. Just going to restart again. Okay, I'm going to have to keep an eye on basically to select F11 to boot from the media. So I was saying, VMware hardware compatibility list. If you're going to install ESXi on a device, F11, on a device, then you need to check that it's certified, i.e. it's on the hardware compatibility list. If it's a VMware lab, if you don't currently have a support contract, if you're not bothered about supportability, then fine, go ahead and try and install it. If you are in a production system, then you really want to make sure that your server is certified for ESXi, because should you have any support issues and you need to escalate them to VMware support, if you're not on the VMware hardware compatibility list, then the chance of actually getting any support from them is going to be very slim. So the ISO is currently inserted into this HPE ProLiant Microserver Gen 8, and we booted. So now I'm just going to select the HPE custom add-on 8. So this is the OEM version that we're going to use to install and upgrade this particular server. So I'm just going to select enter, and hopefully it's going to boot correctly and get to the welcome screen. So I'm just going to quickly show you the VMware compatibility list, and I will put all these links to the last video I did on installing ESX 702, and this is going to be a very similar procedure that we follow. And I will put the links to downloading ESXi as well, 8. And here is the VMware compatibility, and it's quite simple to use. We just select the version that we want. So I'm going to select all, and I'm going to put micro server and update results. So you can see here, actually I'm stand corrected because it actually says that the last supported version of ESXi was 6.5 U3 for the Gen 8. We've got both these versions here. So 6.5 U3 was the last supported version. The new microserver, the Gen 10 plus 2, is supported for 8. Now, it means supported in that you can phone up VMware, open a support call, and they will provide support on that installation. Support doesn't necessarily mean work. And as you can see here, on our ESXi hosts here in this lab, our HPE microservers, our Gen 8s, they're working quite happily with 7.0 U3. Okay, the SD card thing and the USB flash drive thing, that's another supportability issue, and that's not really necessarily, I don't think that they've brought that certification into the HCL as to defining whether or not that you can use SD cards or USB flash drives. And obviously there's no 8 support there for our particular servers. And I'm going to just use R730 because our other lab does have an R730 in it, and as you can see, that's now also dropped off. So the last supported version for our Dell R730 and our 720, so the 720 dropped off at 6.5, although it works. The 730 dropped off after 7.0 U3, so I suspect the 740, which is current gen, is supported for 8 as well. So VMware HCL, very important if you're going to be in production, you're buying a server or you want to reuse a server. Home lab testing doesn't really make any difference. However, of course, your mileage is going to vary as to whether or not that it could crash and give you a purple screen of death. And a lot of the reason for a purple screen of death, a PSOD, is because of hardware. So back to our server, which is booting over ILO. This is something really that I probably wouldn't normally do, and I wouldn't normally try, because I have found installing operating systems remotely via ILO or even iDRAC, Dell's iDRAC, HPE's ILO, is tediously slow. And if you've actually got physical access to the servers, you can touch them. Often a flash drive in the front of them is going to be a far quicker way to install or upgrade the operating system. However, if you're completely remote from the data center and you've got no easy mechanism, then you're not really going to have many options than to remote. But if you have physical access to the servers, or you can get into your data centers, or it's not too far away, then you can save an awful lot of time by booting them physically. Or there are obviously other options, as I said before, VMware Lifecycle Manager, downloading the offline depots, or if if your servers have internet access, then you can pull the update down directly from the bash shell and update them that way. So we're getting there. So I'm just going to bob off again, because it's still going to load up all these modules, and then it's actually going to boot. So I'll come back when we're at the installer screen, and then we can start basically doing some key presses basically to do the installation. So I will be back shortly. Okay, wow, you know, that is slow. Yeah, it's a while since I've actually done an ILO installation, and I think ESXi 8 takes even longer. Anyway, okay, so we've got to the familiar welcome to VMware ESXi 8 installation, and we're going to proceed, and we're just going to hit enter. I'm going to accept the ELA F11. I think that F11, I think, was just taking us back out full screen. But anyway, so it's going to scan for available devices. It's going to find the 32 gig ultra fast industrial media super duper funky stuff, which supposedly, according to the description and according to the vendor, it's got fantastic flash ability, multiple writes, etc, etc, etc. I'll let you know if it fails. I am a little bit suspicious because a couple of times trying to boot this server with it, we have had some error messages, and I did think, oh, you know, that's it. That media's busted, but we restarted the server and it was okay again. Okay, so I'm going to select enter. It's going to go off and find an existing version of ESXi, and it's going to ask us if we want to upgrade or we want to do an installation. If I wanted to do a brand new installation format, if you like, and restart, then I would select install. But I actually want to do an upgrade in this particular video. So I'm going to hit enter to do an upgrade. And this is the first time I've actually basically attempted to do an upgrade on this particular system. Okay, so it's actually talking to us about a CPU support error, which is not surprising. The CPU in this host is not supported by ESXi 8. Yeah, well, who cares, because they're not even on the HCL anyway, and I'm not even going to do an installation. But it's interesting because this is actually turning around and telling me 11 reboot. Please refer to the CPU compatibility file for list of supported CPUs. So I'm wondering whether or not that we can even do an installation, but we may actually be able to override it. So let's just go back. Okay, so little bit of an issue. The CPU in the Gen 8 is too old, and the only options that we had were back and reboot. So we've rebooted the server, and we're at the option to boot again the installer. But this time what we're going to do very quickly is, when we actually see it saying loading ESXi, we're going to hit Shift and O, like so. That actually stops the boot. And now what I'm going to type is a quick tip allow. Legacy CPU equals true. Allow legacy CPU is true, followed by enter. And that little magical word, magical phrase, variable, whatever you want to call it, will allow us to force install ESXi 8 on our Gen 8. Now, if you've got a production server that is on the HCL, you're not going to have to do that. But there's a specific little tweak that I need to do here in the lab to get ESXi 8 installed on our Gen 8s. And if you're using a home lab and with older CPUs, the CPUs in these are Xeon V2s 1265Ls, I think. So they're old by today's standards. So now we're going to have to wait and watch that go through the installation again. So I'm going to disappear. I'll speed all this up in post or chop it up because this is actually basically a fairly long video, and I wanted to condense it down really to about 30 minutes. So I'm going to bob off, and I'll be back shortly. Okay, so we're back at the familiar welcome to the VMware ESXi installation dialog screen. So I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to accept the EULA. I'm just going to expand the screen again. And it's going to scan for available devices. It's going to find our current flash media with our installation of ESXi 7.0.3. And we're going to go forward and we're going to select the upgrade option. It's going to gather some system information, and hopefully this time the allow legacy CPU equals true option is going to kick in. And although it is actually now saying the CPU in this host is not supported by ESXi, please refer, we can now proceed with the installation. So I can hit enter. I can hit F11 to install. That's obviously just going to just maximize that again. And okay, our installation is starting and we are upgrading. So Andy tip, if you are installing on legacy CPUs, and I'll find a list of the CPUs that supported in ESXi 8 and I'll put them in the description, so that if you look at that list and you see that your CPU in your host server is not on that list, then you don't have to go through all the pain and turmoil of waiting for the installation to get to the welcome screen, to hit enter, for it to turn around and say, sorry, no can do. You're going to have to reboot. Allow legacy CPU equals true. So in the past, when I've done this on some other servers that were nested on another production lab, I didn't have to use allow legacy CPU was true because the processors in that particular environment are supported. But it doesn't take very long to upgrade. It seems to get to about 35%, and then it jumps up in big increments. So okay, we are progressing. It's obviously not going to take very long, and then basically we're just going to hit enter. We're going to dismount that ISO from ILO, and then we're going to restart the server, and hopefully, all fingers crossed, it's going to boot with a fresh version, upgraded version of 7.0.3 to ESXi 8. So while I wait for the next prompt, which is enter to restart, then I'm just going to disappear and I'll be back shortly. Okay, so remove the installation media before rebooting. So I'm just going to do exactly what it says. Oh, that's interesting, because I just seem to have lost the HTML. So I'm just going to say it does seem to have ejected it. Definitely ejected it. Yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to hit reboot. So CD's been ejected. It's going to reboot the server, and it's going to start booting ESXi. So I'm going to let it do that, and I'll come back at the end and summarize, and you can watch the server boot correctly. And there we have it, a two-tone scar, upgraded 7.0.3 HP ProLiant microserver Gen 8, upgraded to version 8. And hopefully, okay, so there is actually, it's obviously the certificate it's complaining about. That's not to worry. ESX host client, obviously very different. So if we actually log in with the correct username and password for root, there we go. ESXi shell enabled, SSH shell enabled, system logging is not configured. ESX shell on its host, it's telling me to disable it. Currently in evaluation mode, expires in 60 days. Some virtual machines that are all looking a bit invalid because they are looking at a data store that no longer exists. So there we go. Upgraded. So ESXi 8.0.0 does run on a ProLiant microserver Gen 8, not supported, and using that allow a legacy CPU equals true allows us to upgrade successfully. So that's all I've got to say. It's been a very long video, and I will actually basically shrink that down into about 30 minutes so that you don't have to go through all the pain of watching boot from ILO and everything else. So again, thanks so much for watching. Come back soon when we do an installation on our other Gen 8, but we'll do a fresh installation on that one. We won't do any upgrade, and we'll do that one from USB flash drive, just for shits and giggles, because it'll be a bit faster. Anyway, all the best, and thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.